Julio. Thank you for that warm welcome. And thank you, Branch, for your songs, and for Donald and Rebecca for creating this wonderful consciousness here today. I'm just so happy to be here with you this morning. You know, I was remembering last night as I was putting my talk together that I have a long history, actually, and connection with Columbia Center for Spiritual Living. It was over 25 years ago that I attended my first service at your Hawthorne Center. Actually, I was a minister in Falls Church, Virginia, and I was attending a celebration for your minister at the time, Reverend Nancy Stepp. And I recall it vividly because I had taken as my guest my new boyfriend at the time. It was one of our first public appearances together, and we even actually, I think, stole a kiss in your coat closet. I don't think I've ever shared that with anybody before. And it's significant because that worked out pretty well. We actually ended up getting married, and next month in September, we're celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary. So you always have a special place in my heart, not to mention just your wonderful, rich, and long history in our teaching and our movement, the deep roots that you have created and sustained over the years there in Maryland, and now beyond with this wonderful virtual community. And so I just really, am so inspired by the work that you're doing, creating your new visions and intentions, and with your board, your practitioners, and the leadership of your interim minister, Dr. Nadine. You guys are just really on a powerful path. And so I'm just so glad to be here with you. And I love this theme that we've been working with this whole month, a pause for guidance. I really appreciate that idea of taking a pause. I don't know about you, but I need to pause sometimes and rest and create a space for that guidance to come. You know, as field leader, my job really is to stay connected to all of our communities out in the field. And I know that I'm actually really not alone when I talk to our communities. There's just a lot going on for all of us. And we're so grateful to have our teachings and our understandings to move us forward. So this is a timely topic, as it always is, as we continue, as Rebecca mentioned, the landfall of Hurricane Ida, the chaos and the humanitarian crisis going on in Afghanistan right now, and also just that backdrop of the challenges from the ongoing pandemic. So I think it's so important for us to take a pause and just feel into that. And I want to, if you'll indulge me, I'd like for us to truly take a pause this moment and honor the 13 fallen military troops that died in Kabul on Thursday at the Kabul airport, and recognize that there was over 170 other deaths and many injuries, and just so much challenge going on right there. But I just want to honor our service troops and just indulge me for a minute. We can take a moment of silence. I like to just speak their names into our space so we can love and honor them and their family. The majority of them were in their early 20s. There was only one that was over 30. And so let's just take a moment as we do so well and open up our hearts. And as I speak out these names: Marine Corps Lance Corporal Riley McCullum, Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Darren Hoover, Marine Corps Sergeant Yohani Rosario Pichardo, Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole G., Marine Corps Corporal Hunter Lopez, Marine Corps Corporal Dagan Page, Marine Corps Corporal Humberto Sanchez, Marine Corps Lance Corporal David Espinosa, Marine Corps Lance Corporal Jared Schmidt, Marine Corps Lance Corporal Dylan Marola, Marine Corps Lance Corporal Kareem McCoy, Navy Hospitalman Maxton Soviak, and Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Mouse. So as we speak those names out, we honor them and the sacrifice they've made for this humanitarian effort, really, and for their service to our country and to the world, and know that they symbolize all those who have been struck by this challenge. So we just know peace and love and support. Thank you for allowing me to do that. Taking that pause and just feeling into that love, that space of love. So our talk today is rise and reemerge, and rise and reemerge can be related to big changes in our lives, but it also can just simply be a day-to-day practice as we literally rise up every day out of our beds or sleeping places, and we reemerge into waking life every day. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. So in first we rise, and we want to when we rise, when we're moving into something new, we want to start where we are. We want to have self-awareness and compassion and love for ourselves wherever we are in that moment. So to truly rise and reemerge, we have to acknowledge that where we are and make space for ourselves and for our emotions. Our nervous systems takes time to process change, and it's okay for us to have feelings. It's okay for us to need to be able to process those. Sometimes our teaching can be attractive to maybe those who want to bypass some emotions, specifically emotions that we consider negative. Pithy answers sometimes like all is in fine right order or everything happens for good. Though may be true in the larger, bigger, universal picture of things, they can also kind of deny the complex nature of our lives and of our universe. And in fact, I think can be harmful to our well-being by denying the healthy processing of emotions through our systems. So this can be known as spiritual bypassing. You've probably heard that term, which is, using spiritual teaching to deny or to ignore the need of emotional or psychological healing. Thomas Hubel, a spiritual teacher, has this analogy, and he talks about that when a snowflake falls on running water, like in a stream, it melts and it integrates into the system. When it falls on solid ice, it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And so our systems are like that. When trauma and life, comes into a system that's healthy and flowing and we're moving through it, it gets processed. But when we shut down, when we push away, it just piles up, and we can't move through that circulation of life. Someone said once that when we bury our feelings, we bury them alive. We actually don't get rid of them. They just get buried, and then they come up in other ways. So it's important for us to learn how to process our emotions, to be kind to ourselves when we're experiencing these changes or the challenges, especially in this day and age, and not to deny the reality that that's going on. So, because in order for something to be healed, it must be looked at and acknowledged. You can't, clean an infected wound by just simply ignoring it or covering it up with a Band-Aid. It needs healing. It needs healing light and cleaning and love and care. So when we rise up, we take time for ourselves. And then when we come back, when we reemerge, we can actually have a larger perspective. So what is true is when we get stressed, literally our vision narrows. You've probably had this experience. If some emergency has happened, you just we're meant that way. We're built that way to just focus in on what it is that we need to take care of. But when we do that all the time, we actually lose our peripheral vision. We can't see the opportunities or the options or the choices that we have. And so that's literally and metaphorically in a way that we lose sight of that. So you can just try this. This is one of the things you can do as as we continue to help our systems and love ourselves. It's very, very simple. Just take a moment. You can do it right now. Just look away from the screen, find something to focus on in front of you, and then just allow yourself to focus on that. Keep your gaze in front of you, but just notice your peripheral vision. Just expand a little bit, and you might even see your hands and notice the walls, and notice how high that you can see and how low you can see. And as you do this, you might even feel your body relaxing a little bit. You're actually bringing yourself back into reality and expanding your awareness. And this actually calms our parasympathetic nervous system down. And it's a great analogy for us, isn't it? To know that when we get caught up in our stress, that sometimes we need to stop, look up, expand our perspective. I'm so grateful to Dr. Ernest Holmes, who encourages us to be open at the top. He knew that there would be others who would come along after he was gone with new information and new wisdom. In fact, in Neil Vale's book, Open at the Top, The Life of Ernest Holmes, he explains Ernest's quest for knowledge and new understanding. This is what he said. He said, Holmes himself never stopped learning. He was constantly reading, exchanging ideas, and searching. Anything that comes along that is better than I've got, he once said, I want to know about it. As a result, his philosophy of science of mind was open at the top, as he put it, for new insights and for fresh and invigorating ways to present spiritual information. I think Dr. Holmes would be thrilled with the new discoveries in neuroscience and embodied somatic practices and wisdom that can inform us in our work. I've taken this idea of being open at the top really to heart. And in my own study and my own exploration, I've evolved in my understanding that has moved me from my mind through my heart into my body. I have a strong sense that Ernest Holmes would have grown to understand that we just, we don't only manifest with our thoughts, that we have wisdom in our hearts and we have wisdom in our gut, and we manifest through that, and we manifest collectively. He would understand how trauma works in our body, how it works in our communities, in the world. And there are times that we can't think our way out of it. We need more embodied experiences of our teachings. And this is so powerful. And although it wasn't called spiritual bypass back then, Dr. Holmes was aware of the potential nature of denying physical or even emotional realities in our lives. This is a great essay. If you've never read it, it's in Living the Science of Mind on page 252. It's called Let Us Not Fool Ourselves. And Dr. Holmes says, in the science of mind, we do not say everything is all right when it is all wrong. We do not say peace when there is no peace, but rather we try to discover what is wrong and why we do not have peace. We do not say that people are not poor or sick or unhappy. We ask why these things should be if the original cause of all things is harmonious, peace, radiant, and happy. He doesn't stop there. He actually goes on and he says, in the practice of science mind healing, we do not deny that people are ill, nor do we minimize the need for sanitation or for medical or surgical help. We seek to aid these other agencies by uniting with them in their effort, by being grateful for their help, and by cooperating in every way possible with what they're doing. This is such a clear teaching that we're not a closed system and that we can reach out for help beyond our own spiritual expertise or understanding, beyond our teaching. We can get help and support when we need it. I love this idea of being grateful for the other ways to get help and cooperating in every way possible for the way that prayer is answered through doctors and medications and therapists and vaccines. I've been listening to a podcast called Vaccine, a Human Story by Dr. Annie Kelly. She tracks the history of the smallpox vaccine. It's an amazing story of discovery and answered prayer. And I just love putting all that into context in our history and where we are at this moment in our world. And so we can be grateful to rise up, to get support in many ways, and to know that we're not alone. And so as we rise up, the next thing we do is we reemerge. We reemerge into the world, whether it's getting up out of bed or, a big change in our life. And when we do that, we don't leave aspects of ourselves behind. When we rise up in the morning, we don't leave part of our physical body in the bed, right? We take it all with us. But sometimes I think we try to leave those aspects of ourselves that we don't like or that we're judgmental about behind. Dr. Ernest Holmes, one of my favorite concepts that he talks about is that the perception of wholeness is the consciousness of healing. So I take that to mean in order to heal, we must acknowledge all aspects of our soul, of ourselves, the wholeness of it, to bring us all forward in that consciousness. You've probably heard the story of the little girl who had a good wolf and a bad wolf fighting inside, and she goes and asks the elder, which one's going to win? Which one's going to win? And the elder says, well, the one that you feed. Now, I have appreciated that story over the years, really knowing that what we focus on grows, what we focus on, what we feed. But if you really think about it, think about those wolves as part of yourselves. Even thinking about if you had pet dogs that were fighting, would you just stop feeding one? You would figure out what their needs were. You would love them. You take care of them. And that's true with parts of ourselves that feel like they're fighting within us, that they need to be loved and helped and calmed down. And but often what we do is we shun those parts, or we shame them, or we actually get really invested in them. So, why am I so indecisive? Or we push them down, we judge them, we try to manage them. You should be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. Or sometimes we just try to ignore them, maybe with an affirmation, right? We kind of we call it our ego or a false belief, and we try to cover it up. But what if these are just parts of ourselves that have been hurt, or just need to be heard and need to be loved? Jacob Lieberman said, what we call our shadow is nothing more than aspects of our nature waiting to be embraced and reclaimed. So we have parts of ourselves just waiting to be embraced and reclaimed and loved. So in your own practice, if you want to try this out, that's another way. Today I'm into calming your parasympathetic nervous system and creating from your higher self. So in your own practice, you can try this. This is a really easy thing to do, and it's just 3 little steps. So first of all, when you notice that voice, that your critical part or fearful part or judgmental part, you just notice it. You notice, there's a part right now that's feeling scared. There's a part of me, it's not all of me, but some aspect of myself is feeling judgy or controlling or scared. And then just notice that. And the second part is to notice how you feel about it. Are you accepting, or are you judgmental? Are you caring, or do you just want to push that part away? And the third part, this is the tricky part, is it's okay however you're feeling about that. In other words, practice compassion and self-love for even those parts of you that are trying to push away those other parts, even the ones that are judging. So if possible, you can just acknowledge. You can just acknowledge in that moment, there's a part of me that is sad or worried or trying to take control. There's a part of me that is feeling all this. And when we do that, it takes it out of it, it really kind of lowers the power of that part, because it's just one aspect of it. And it's really good for our brains. And neuroscience is discovering how important this is for healthy brains and connections to other. In Sarah Payton's work, she calls it self-resonance. So we resonate. So either we resonate with ourselves, like, yeah, I get it. This is hard. There's a part of me that thinks this is hard. This is good for us to do with each other as well. If you're a parent or a friend, sometimes we want to just go to reassurance right away. It's all okay. It's good. No, you're going to be fine. And that can be helpful, but there really needs to be a sense of resonance. I hear that this is hard for you. I hear this is challenging for you. And again, you might even feel that. There's this relaxation. Our brains need that resonance in order to go forward. There's time for that, positive focus and reassurance. But at some points, it's really good to have that resonance. And what happens is that when we acknowledge these parts, sometimes we're afraid, right? If I acknowledge this part, it's going to take over. We're going to create from this place. And that's really not true at all. When we acknowledge these parts, they actually begin to trust that maybe we have a higher essence that really does know what's best for us. Richard Schwartz, who's the psychologist that created internal family systems, I love this. He says that in every person he's ever worked with, at some point, when the other parts have been acknowledged and loved, so when all those parts have been acknowledged and loved, there emerges this higher self, he calls it with a capital S. Sounds familiar, right? He says it happens regardless of spiritual or religious beliefs, that atheists find this part. There is an aspect within us that is a divine self. We know this. We teach this. Dr. Holmes talks about this all the time. He says, in this quote I love, he says, no matter what our emotional storm or what our objective situation may be, there is always something hidden in the inner being that has never been violated. We may stumble, but always there is that eternal voice forever whispering within our ear, that thing which causes the eternal quest, that thing which forever sings and sings. And don't you love this idea that there is something inside that can never be violated, that it gets never hurt? And that is the part that comes forward. And that is the place where we can come to with for it to guide us and direct us. And and love those other parts. So we don't have to be afraid of those other parts. We just have to love them. So that allows this essence, this powerful presence within us. So that the third thing we do when we reemerge is to choose to know the truth about ourselves. And I just want to do this like really quick little exercise. It's a little meditation, and you can do it with your eyes open, with your eyes closed. It's just take a minute, but it'll kind of give you an idea, something you can take with you to try out. So just close your eyes if you're comfortable, and just imagine yourself kind of inside a dark house. You're dressed in a swimming suit, and you've been swimming in an indoor pool. And now just get out of the pool. You're cold. You were wishing for warmth. You wish you had some light. And so you step outside the door of the house into the sunlight, out into nature. And you go out to your lounge chair and you lie down and sunbathe. And just feel the warmth and the light penetrating your being. You feel so good. You're no longer cold. And you see a tree near you, and you see how it also takes in the rays of sun, turning sunlight into food and energy. And is like you, a sunbather, absorbing the light and the warmth. Now look at the sun and feel yourself begin to expand and rise out of your scene towards the sun. You meld into the sun. You are the sun. You're radiating out your light upon the trees and the plants and nature, shining your light onto solar panels that people convert into energy, people sitting and absorbing your rays. Feel what it's like to give out from an inexhaustible supply. Feel the difference of being the sun and being the sunbather. Feel the connection between the two. And now just bring yourself back into this place and just notice this sense of expansion. This this is the place where we come from, where we create, where we know what the highest and best is for us. So that's an inexhaustible supply of our divine essence that can love all aspects of ourself and love others too, being the source and the healing for ourselves and the world. And we're at choice about this. Dr. Ernest Holmes says we can sit in the shade or move into the sunshine. Sitting in the shadow, we may not really believe that there's any sunshine, but the sun would be there all the time. And all the time we are in bondage, the real freedom exists. It is there, but we must awaken to it. We must rise and emerge to it. So as you rise and reemerge to your next greater expression of life, whether it's a big change of life or whether it's just getting up in the morning, try to remember these things if you can, if going forward. Start where you are. Practice care and self-nurture. Get help when you need it. Widen your perspective and your peripheral vision. Take all your parts with you on your new journey. Practice self-compassion. Notice these aspects of yourself. Notice how you feel about them. Acknowledge it. Love it. And as you do this, you make your way for the divine essence of who you are to guide and lead you, remembering who you are. Move into the sun, become the sun itself. You are such a blessing to this world, and I am so grateful to have spent this time with you today. Peace and blessings.